Mother-in-law was expecting a cleaner but got a lesson for life. Hello, dear friends. Before we begin, please let us know in the comments which country you're watching from. We're so curious where our viewers are tuning in from. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new stories. We wish you a pleasant viewing and a warm, heartfelt mood. Sunlight, filtering through the heavy beige drapes, fell in golden stripes across the flawlessly polished marble floor, as if nature itself were trying to soften the austere luxury of this apartment. Eleonora stood by the enormous window, clutching a porcelain cup of now-cold coffee, and felt like an actress in someone else's play, where everyone knows their part except her. A week. It had been only a week since she'd stepped across the threshold of this house as a young bride, yet it felt like a lifetime. Eleonora, dear, her mother-in-law's voice sounded behind her, soft as silk but with an almost imperceptible edge of steel. Breakfast is served in the dining room, not by the window. We are, after all, people of refinement. Isabel Gomez appeared in the doorway, impeccable as always, her hair arranged in an elegant updo, light makeup emphasizing her aristocratic features, a silk robe the color of ivory flowing around her. At 58 she looked 45, a result not only of good genes but of iron discipline honed by a lifetime spent fighting for her place in the sun. Sorry, I didn't think, Eleonora murmured, quickly setting down the cup and heading toward the table, her cheeks burning with shame. The dining room was breathtaking, a massive oak table set for 12 gleamed under a crystal chandelier, and the walls were adorned with reproductions of famous paintings in expensive frames. Everything here spoke of wealth, taste, and status. But to Eleonora, this splendor felt like a museum exhibit, and she was the unwitting visitor poised to break some unspoken rule. Sit down, darling, Isabel indicated the seat opposite her, then gracefully lowered herself into the chair at the head of the table. Diego's already gone to work, but I thought we should have breakfast together. Women always have much to discuss. Eleonora sat carefully, straining to hold her back straight as her mother had taught her in childhood. Posture is the foundation of a woman's dignity. Now those words felt like mockery. What dignity could a girl have if she felt out of place in her own home? You see, dear, began Isabel, artfully spreading butter on her toast, the Gomez family has certain traditions. We have always lived by the highest standards, and I hope you understand that. Of course, Senora Isabel, Eleonora replied softly, awkwardly holding the silver spoon. I'm trying very hard. Oh, I can see that, her mother-in-law said with a patronizing tilt of her voice. But you understand there's a difference between trying and knowing how. For instance, yesterday you served coffee in the wrong cups. That antique Sevillian porcelain is for special occasions. For daily use we have another set. A familiar heaviness spread through Eleonora's chest. Each day brought new rules, new mistakes, new reminders that she was an outsider here. Yesterday wrong cups, the day before improperly folded napkins, and on her first day a disaster in table setting when she placed the forks on the wrong side of the plate. I'll remember, she whispered, trying to swallow a piece of toast that tasted like cardboard. Of course you will, Isabel smiled, though the warmth didn't reach her eyes. You're a smart girl. It's just, how do I put this delicately? In your village, things are done differently. That's natural. But now you're part of our family, and you have much to learn. The word village sounded as if Isabel had uttered something obscene. Eleonora clenched her fists under the table, recalling her childhood home with its cozy kitchen always smelling of freshly baked bread, where she could curl up in her favorite corner with a book without fearing she'd break some protocol. I understand that our way of life may seem strange to you, her mother-in-law continued. Diego told me your parents are simple folk. Your father works on a farm, and your mother, well, she takes care of the house. That's certainly respectable, but... She trailed off, and the unspoken but hung in the air like an irrevocable verdict. Eleonora felt something inside her tighten into a painful knot. Yes, her parents had no prestigious degrees, never vacationed in Europe, and didn't dine at Michelin-star restaurants. But they were honest, kind people who had taught their daughter the most important lesson of all, to love and be loved. My parents are wonderful people, Eleonora said quietly but firmly. Oh, of course, dear, I don't doubt that, Isabel agreed quickly. It's just that we come from different worlds, you see? And you need time to adapt. For example, this afternoon I'm having some friends over for tea. I think you should observe how these gatherings go in our circle. In our circle, yet another reminder that Eleonora was an outsider, allowed only to hover at the edge of someone else's life by a gesture of grace. All right, she nodded, keeping her eyes cast downward at her plate. Wonderful, Isabel said, rising from the table with the poised grace that years in high society had bestowed upon her. While I go see my cosmetologist, you could tidy up the living room. But please be very careful with the antiques. That vase on the sideboard is 17th century, and the painting above the fireplace is worth, well, that's not important. What matters is your precision. Left alone, Eleonora rose slowly, her legs heavy as though walking through mud rather than across marble. The living room greeted her with the same museum-like grandeur, leather armchairs, polished tables, books bound in leather that seemed never to have been read. On the mantelpiece stood photographs in silver frames Diego at various stages of life, family portraits, snapshots from official events. She began dusting the surfaces with the care of a sapper diffusing a bomb, each movement calculated, furtive as if she were not the wife of the house but the servant not trusted even with simple chores. The sound of a key in the lock made her start. Diego was home earlier than usual, his face shadowed by the fatigue of carrying too many burdens on his shoulders. At 29 he looked older than his years working in his father's company demanded constant effort, and his mother's high expectations added another layer of stress. "Hi, sunshine," he said, approaching his wife and kissing her forehead, yet the gesture felt formal. "How are you? Has Mom been giving you a hard time?" Guilt flickered in his voice, which he tried to mask with a breezy tone. Eleonora looked into his eyes, those same brown eyes that had enchanted her when they first met, but now the sincerity she once saw there was gone. "I'm fine," she lied, as she had every day, trying not to add to her husband's troubles. "You know," Diego said, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly, "Mom only wants what's best. She's used to a certain order, and she needs time to, well, you know, to accept me." Eleonora finished silently, but said nothing aloud. She understood Diego's predicament, caught between his mother and his wife, yet his constant excuses for Isabel's behavior only deepened her hurt. "She has guests this afternoon," Eleonora said, continuing to dust the now immaculately clean table. "Yes," he replied, "she mentioned that. Her friends are interesting women. Maybe you'll find something in common." His voice carried a hope so unconvincing that even he did not believe it. Eleonora nodded, though inwardly she was already imagining how this tea party would go. She would sit silently in a corner while the ladies of high society discussed their affairs, casting condescending glances her way from time to time. The clock struck 3, and as if on cue, the doorbell announced the guest's arrival. Isabel, fresh and radiant after her visit to the cosmetologist, greeted her friends with a special enthusiasm she never showed her daughter-in-law. "Dear ones," her voice rang with delight, "please, come in. Eleonora, welcome our guests." 3 older ladies entered the living room like a flotilla of battleships ready for combat. Each was dressed impeccably, carried herself with the dignity of someone accustomed to respect, and each swept Eleonora with an appraising glance, like a reviewer inspecting merchandise. "This is Carmen Morales," Isabel introduced the woman with the short haircut and piercing eyes, "the wife of our banker. And this is Beatriz Vasquez, her husband owns a chain of shops. And, of course, Dolores Ramirez, our local celebrity, an art historian." "Pleased to meet you," Eleonora whispered, feeling like a schoolgirl during an exam. "And this," Isabel pronounced her daughter-in-law's name with the same tone used to present a new household pet, "is Eleonora, Diego's wife. A girl from the province." Province sounded even worse than village. 3 pairs of eyes fixed on Eleonora with undisguised curiosity, and she felt like an exhibit in a museum. "How sweet," Carmen drawled, her voice tinged with that particular condescension reserved for something charming but utterly insignificant. "And so very young." "Diego has always been a romantic," added Beatrice as she settled into a chair. "I remember back in college he was into all sorts of unconventional girls." Dolores remained silent, but her gaze spoke louder than words. She examined Eleonora with professional thoroughness, noting every detail of her dress, every slip in her manners, every awkward movement. "Eleonora, dear," Isabel addressed her, "bring us the tea. The set is in the sideboard, the one with the roses." Eleonora hurried to the kitchen, grateful for a few moments' reprieve from those piercing stares. Her hands trembled as she retrieved the porcelain cups, praying she wouldn't drop something and disgrace herself completely. From the living room came muffled laughter and fragments of conversation. "Of course love is wonderful, but practicality. Nowadays young people don't think about compatibility at all. Remember the story of Castillo's son? He also married a." Eleonora squeezed her eyes shut, trying not to listen. She knew they were talking about her, discussing her marriage to Diego as if it were an unfortunate mistake that might still be corrected. Returning to the living room with the tray, she found the ladies deep in animated discussion about the upcoming charity auction. They planned to bid sums exceeding her family's entire annual income, speaking of it with the same ease ordinary people reserve for buying bread. Eleonora, what do your parents do? Dolores suddenly asked, interrupting the art talk. A silence fell, heavy with anticipation. All eyes turned again to Eleonora, and she felt her cheeks burn. My father. He works on a farm, she answered quietly. And my mother runs the household and tends the garden. How interesting, Carmen drawled. So you grew up in the countryside. That must be very authentic. Authentic, another word that sounded like a thinly veiled insult. Eleonora clenched her fists, a wave of anger and humiliation rising within her. Yes, I grew up in a village, she said, striving for an even tone. And I'm proud of it. An awkward silence ensued. The ladies exchanged glances as if surprised the exhibit had spoken for itself. Of course, dear, Isabel hastened to interject. Being close to nature is wonderful. It's just that in the city, priorities are, how shall I say, different. The tea continued for another hour, but for Eleonora it was an hour of torment. She sat silently, listening to talk of people and events from a world utterly foreign to her, feeling like a ghost at her own wedding. When the guests finally departed, Isabel turned to her daughter-in-law with an expression mixing disappointment and patronizing patience. Well then, she said, gathering the cups, that was an instructive experience. I think you understand now that our social circle demands a certain preparation. Eleonora nodded silently, unable to trust herself to speak. Inside, a tumult of hurt, shame, and impotent rage churned. You know, dear, her mother-in-law continued, metallic notes creeping into her voice, I think you need help. Serious help. Perhaps we should invite your parents? Let them live with us for a while and help you settle in. Help? Eleonora echoed, bewildered. Isabel smiled, but it was as cold as Arctic ice. Your mother could assist with cleaning and cooking, and your father could tend the terrace garden it's been neglected, and he has, as you say, golden hands. Eleonora felt the ground slip from beneath her. Was her mother-in-law truly suggesting using her parents as servants? Did she not understand what she was saying? Senora Isabel, she began in a trembling voice, my parents. Yes, I understand. Her mother-in-law waved a hand. Your delicacy suits you. But sometimes one must be practical. Call your village mother, she'll be my cleaner. And bring your father, he can be the gardener. She barked, and all her feigned politeness flew off like a poorly glued mask. Eleonora froze as if struck. Village mother. Gardener. The word stabbed her heart like knives, and tears welled in her eyes. I can't, she whispered. You can't? Isabel stood at her full height, her eyes flashing with cold fire. Or you won't. You know, if you intend to be part of this family, you'll have to learn to be useful. And your parents could be very useful. They aren't servants, Eleonora said quietly but firmly. And what are they? Her mother-in-law sneered. Aristocrats? Intellectuals? Let's be honest, they're simple working people, and there's nothing shameful about earning an honest living. Eleonora stood in the sumptuous living room, feeling something inside her break. This was more than humiliation, it was the destruction of everything she believed in, of all hopes for a happy future, of every illusion about love conquering all obstacles. I'll call them, she said at last, her voice sounding like that of someone reading her own death sentence. Good girl. Isabel nodded in satisfaction. You'll see, everything will work out. The main thing is the right approach to the situation. Left alone, Eleonora sank into an armchair and covered her face with her hands. Tears streamed through her fingers, salty and bitter like seawater in a storm. She thought of her childhood home, of her mother's kind eyes, of her father's calloused hands that could work miracles with soil and plants. How could she call them and relay this monstrous proposal? How could she turn the people dearest to her into servants to satisfy the whim of an arrogant woman? But she had no choice. She was here alone, without support, without protection. And the only way to survive was to submit. With trembling hands, she picked up the phone and dialed home. Mom? She whispered into the receiver when she heard the familiar voice. Mom, I need help. Anna was just placing the coffee pot on the table when the phone rang. The old handset hung on the kitchen wall next to the calendar, and the photograph of her daughter in her wedding dress, the very photo she looked at every morning, whispering a prayer for her only child's happiness. The ring sounded particularly alarming, as if trouble were hidden in its very tone. Hello? She answered, her heart tightening with foreboding. Mom. Eleonora's voice shook so badly that Anna immediately knew something serious had happened. Mom, I'm sorry to bother you. Eleonora, darling, what's wrong? Anna gripped the phone tighter, feeling that familiar maternal anxiety rising inside her. Are you crying? I don't know how to tell you, Eleanora sobbed. It's all so complicated here, Mom. I thought I could do it, but... In the quiet of the village kitchen, broken only by the ticking of the old clock and the rustle of leaves outside, Anna sat down on the stool beside the phone, ready to listen to her daughter. In her 54 years she'd learned to distinguish the shades of a woman's sorrow, and now she heard more than distress in Eleanora's voice. She heard humiliation. Tell me, sweetheart, don't be afraid, she said softly. Mom will understand. My mother-in-law, Isabel, Eleanora faltered as if she couldn't find the words. She said I don't fit into their family, that I need help. And she suggested. Anna felt the hairs on her neck rise. A mother's heart never lies, and now it told her she was about to hear something earth-shattering. What did she suggest, darling? She said. Eleanora's voice broke into sobs. She said, call your village mother, she can be my cleaner. And bring your father too, he can work as my gardener. The silence that followed those words was deafening. Anna sat holding the phone, feeling something she hadn't felt in years slowly, inexorably rising inside her. Not just anger, no, something deeper and more powerful, the wounded dignity of a woman who had worked honestly all her life, raised her daughter, and never demeaned another human being. Repeat that once more, she said quietly, with steel in her voice. Exactly what did this lady say? Mom, please don't, Eleanora cried. I shouldn't have. It's just so hard here, I feel like an outsider. Eleanora, Anna interrupted, now speaking with a calm so chilling that it frightened her daughter more than any angry shout. Tell me word for word what that lady said. Eleanora repeated her mother-in-law's words, and with every syllable Anna's face grew paler, her lips pressing tighter together. Village mother, gardener. Those words seared into her mind like red-hot iron. I understand, she said at last. And how did you respond? I said I'd call you, Eleanora whispered. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to do. She put me in this position. Don't apologize, darling, Anna said gently, though a storm raged inside her. You're not at fault. Tell me, where's your husband right now? Diego is at work. He's trying not to interfere between me and my mother-in-law. He says time will fix everything. Time, Anna thought bitterly. Time heals only those willing to admit their mistakes. Arrogance only grows stronger with time. Eleanora, listen carefully, she said, rising from the stool. Tomorrow, your father and I are coming to you. Mom, please don't, Eleanora pleaded. It will only make things worse. Isabel already sees me as a problem. My darling, Anna's voice took on such firmness that Eleanora fell silent at once. There are things one cannot let go unpunished. And there are people who must be shown the difference between dignity and arrogance. We're coming. After she hung up, Anna stood by the phone for a long time, digesting what she'd heard. Village mother. She repeated those words aloud and felt something inside her irrevocably shift. Yes, she had lived her whole life in a village. Yes, she had worked on a farm, grown vegetables, baked bread. And yes, she had no university degree or expensive gowns. But she knew one simple truth that the arrogant city woman seemed to have forgotten. A person's dignity is not measured by the size of their bank account. Jose, she called, summoning her husband from the shed. Come here. We need to talk. Jose appeared in the kitchen doorway, wiping his hands on an old towel. 26 years of marriage had taught him to read his wife's mood in a single glance, and now he saw something there that made him tense. What's happened, Anita? He asked, taking a seat opposite her. Eleanora called, Anna said, recounting the entire conversation without omitting a single detail. Jose listened in silence, but Anna saw the muscles in his face tighten and his fists clench. He was a man of few words, but when it came to family, he could be a formidable protector. She said, he can work as a gardener, he repeated softly, then laughed quietly. You know, Anita, it's been ages since we've visited our young ones. That's what I was thinking, Anna nodded. It's time we got to know our new relatives a little closer. What will we tell them? Jose asked, a mischievous sparkle in his eyes that Anna remembered from their youth. Nothing special, she replied calmly. We'll just show them what true upbringing looks like, and find out what kind of people raised our daughter's husband. She rose and began pacing the kitchen, and Jose knew his wife was plotting. Over the years he had learned not to interrupt her in such moments. Anna thought strategically, and her decisions were rarely wrong. Jose, she said at last, stopping by the window, do you remember what they used to call me at the Institute? Of course I do, he smiled. The Iron Lady with a soft heart. The professors said you had a rare combination of analytical mind and compassion. Exactly, Ana nodded. I think it's time to put those skills to use. Jose understood what she meant. Few knew that his wife had once worked in the city at a research institute and was considered one of its most promising young specialists. But when Eleonora was born and then the tragedy with her brother occurred, Ana decided to move to the village, far from the bustle and career ambitions of the city. Anita, be careful, he said. Maybe we shouldn't. Eleonora is an adult, let her handle her own problems. Jose, Ana looked at her husband with such determination that he understood it was useless to try to dissuade her. No one has the right to humiliate our daughter. And no one has the right to consider us second-class people just because we don't live in the center of the capital. Then when do we leave? Jose asked, and she knew he supported her. Tomorrow morning. We need to get ready. They spent the rest of the evening preparing. Ana took down from the closet a suitcase that hadn't been used for years and began packing carefully. Not just any clothes, she chose each item of her wardrobe with particular care. Jose, fetch me the navy suit, she asked her husband. The one we bought for Eleonora's graduation from the institute. This one? Jose produced from the closet an elegant dark blue suit that Ana reserved only for the most solemn occasions. This one, she nodded. And the white blouse with the pearl buttons. She folded the clothes slowly, thinking through every motion. Tomorrow she would face the woman who fancied herself an aristocrat simply because she'd married a wealthy man. But Ana knew the secret of true elegance. It's not in the price tag of the outfit, but in how one carries oneself. What should I wear? Jose asked, watching his wife with interest as she packed. Dark trousers, a white shirt, and the gray blazer, Ana replied without hesitation. And a tie, the one Eleonora gave you for your birthday. A tie? Her husband was surprised. Ana, we're not going to a society ball. Precisely a society ball, she said seriously. But our dear matchmaker doesn't know that yet. That evening, once everything was ready, they sat on the veranda sipping tea from the old samovar. The summer dusk wrapped the village in a soft mist. Somewhere in the distance cows were lowing as they returned from pasture, and the air was full of the scent of blooming lindens and freshly cut grass. Ana, Jose said quietly, what if we've misunderstood everything? Maybe that woman simply phrased things badly? Ana was silent for a long moment, gazing at the sunset, which painted the sky in soft pink and gold. Jose, she said at last, when a person calls another from the countryside with such contempt, it's not a slip of the tongue. It's a stance. A belief that some people are better than others simply because they were born in a different place or have more money. And what will we do? We will show her that true dignity cannot be bought or sold, Ana replied calmly. And at the same time teach our daughter not to bow her head before those who mistake arrogance for nobility. She rose and paced the veranda. Her silhouette stood out sharply against the evening sky. You know, Jose, many years ago when I worked at the institute, I had a colleague. Beautiful, intelligent, from a good family. But she believed her background gave her the right to look down on those she deemed lower on the social ladder. And what happened to her? She gradually found herself alone, not because people hated her, but simply because no one likes being treated as inferior. In the end, she was left utterly alone, with her sense of superiority and emptiness around her. Jose nodded, understanding where his wife was going. Do you think Eleonora's mother-in-law is heading down the same path? I think she's forgotten the most important rule of human interaction, Ana answered. Respect must be earned, not demanded. And tomorrow I'll remind her of that. That night Ana couldn't sleep for a long time. She lay in bed thinking of her daughter, imagining how hard it must be for her in a strange house, among people who didn't consider her worthy of their circle. A mother's heart ached at the thought of Eleonora suffering, trying to become someone else just to earn acceptance. But my daughter is in no way to blame, Ana thought, staring at the ceiling. She's good, kind, smart, honest. And if someone can't see that, the problem lies not with her but with those who look. In the morning, Ana woke with a clear head and firm resolve. She dressed with particular care, styled her hair, even applied a touch of makeup for the first time in many years. Looking at herself in the mirror, she saw not just a simple country woman but a person of dignity, ready to protect her family. You look beautiful, Ana, Jose said, appearing behind her in the mirror. Just like in your youth. Thank you, my dear. She turned to him and straightened his tie. You look good too. A true gentleman. Ready to meet our new relatives? Ready, Jose answered firmly. It's time to show them what real refinement looks like. On their way to the bus stop, they passed their neighbor, Aunt Consuelo, who eyed their attire curiously. Where are you all dressed up for? She asked. A wedding, perhaps? We're going to see our daughter, Ana replied briefly. Did something happen? The neighbor fretted. Nothing special, Anna said calmly. It's just time to get better acquainted with our matchmaker. Her calm confidence made Aunt Consuelo understand that it was best not to pry further. The bus arrived on schedule, and Anna and Jose took seats by the window. As the bus rolled along familiar roads past fields and forests, Anna remained silent, but Jose could see she was deep in thought. What are you thinking about? He asked softly. That people sometimes forget a simple truth, she answered without taking her eyes off the window. Dignity isn't something others give you. It's what you carry inside. And tomorrow our dear matchmaker will understand that. The bus swayed gently over the road's bumps, carrying them toward a meeting that would change the lives of everyone in this family drama. Eleonora waited for her parents at the station with a mixture of relief and dread. On one hand, she missed her mother's embrace and her father's quiet support so much she felt like crying right there in the bustling crowd. On the other, she knew their arrival could only complicate the already difficult situation with Isabel. Mom, Dad. She waved when she spotted their familiar figures among the passengers. But as they drew closer, Eleonora froze in amazement. It was her mother, but a completely different woman. Anna looked elegant, yes, that was the first word that came to mind. The dark blue suit fitted her perfectly, her hair was neatly styled, and her eyes shone with a calm confidence Eleonora hadn't seen in her mother for many years. My darling, Anna hugged her daughter, and in that embrace there was such strength and warmth that Eleonora felt the tension of recent days begin to lift. How are you? How are you both? Eleonora looked at her parents in confusion. Jose, too, looked unusually festive in his dark suit and tie. We decided to dress up for meeting our new relatives, Anna said calmly, and in her voice was no trace of the simple innocence Eleonora remembered. I hope we're not too late. No, of course not, Eleonora answered quickly, still not believing her eyes. You just look so different. Sometimes it's good to show people that first impressions can be deceiving, Jose said, taking his wife's suitcase. On the way to the house, Eleonora chatted nervously about the city, the weather, anything to fill the silence. But her parents listened without a word, and in that very quiet there was a special focus, as if they were preparing for an important exam. Mom, Eleonora finally mustered the courage to speak, have you changed your mind? Maybe it would be better to stay at a hotel? Isabel. She's very demanding, and she has very particular ideas about how things should be done. I see, Anna nodded. Then we'll have something to talk about. The Gomez residence made exactly the impression it was meant to, a grand building in a prestigious neighborhood announcing the owner's status and wealth. But Anna surveyed the facade with the same calm curiosity she might bring to examining a shop window. It's beautiful, she said, though a little cold. But I suppose that's fashionable. In the lobby they were met by the concierge, who appraised the unfamiliar visitors with interest. Eleonora felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but Anna greeted him so naturally and kindly that he couldn't help smiling in return. Good afternoon, she said. We're here to see the Gomez family. I'm Eleonora's mother. Please go right ahead, the concierge replied, indicating the elevator, and in his voice was not a trace of the condescension Eleonora had feared. The car rose in silence. Eleonora nervously fiddled with her purse strap, bracing herself for the meeting. How would Isabel react to her parents? What would she say when she saw them? And above all, what would happen when her mother heard those words that had made Eleonora cry all last night? Mom, Eleonora whispered, please don't be upset by what she might say. She just... My darling, Anna took her daughter's hand. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. The apartment door opened almost immediately after they rang. Isabel appeared in the doorway, clad in an elegant house dress, her hair perfectly styled and makeup flawless, ready, it seemed, to receive her simple countryside in-laws with gracious tolerance. But what she saw stopped her for a moment. Isabel, Eleonora said, trying to keep her voice steady, these are my parents. My mother Anna, my father Jose. Anna stepped forward, and Isabel couldn't help noticing that this woman moved with dignity and poise. Anna extended her hand for a handshake, and there was neither obsequiousness nor hesitancy in her gesture. Pleased to meet you, Anna said, her tone calm and friendly. Thank you for inviting us. We were so worried about Eleonora and wanted to see how she's settling into her new family. Isabel took the offered hand, feeling a twinge of discomposure. She had expected a stereotypical countrywoman in dowdy attire, with coarse manners and a simple expression. Instead, before her stood an elegant lady who carried herself with natural dignity. Of course, please come in, Isabel said, stepping aside. We are very glad to see you. Jose silently removed his cap and hung it neatly on the coat rack. His movements were deliberate and assured, betraying a habit of order and precision. What a lovely apartment, Anna remarked, surveying the entry hall. Very stylish. It's clear the hostess has excellent taste. Her compliment was sincere, without any hint of flattery, and Isabel felt her carefully prepared facade beginning to crack. Thank you, she replied. Please, come through to the living room. I was just about to serve tea. In the living room, Anna and Jose looked around with the same calm interest. They neither gushed nor seemed overwhelmed by the luxury. Anna approached the bookshelf and ran her finger thoughtfully along the spines. Oh, you have Borges, she observed. Labyrinths in the original edition, a wonderful book, though not easy to digest. Isabel froze. She herself had bought that book merely as decor and had never read it. Yet this simple countrywoman not only knew the author but spoke of him with genuine understanding. You've read Borges? Isabel couldn't help asking. Of course, Anna smiled. In my youth I was passionate about literature, especially Latin American writers Borges, Cortázar, Marquez, each with a style all his own. Eleonora listened to this exchange with her mouth agape. She had known her mother was well-read but had never heard her speak about literature with such confidence and insight. Please, sit down, Isabel said, gesturing toward the sofa. I'll bring the tea in a moment. Allow me to help, Anna offered. No, please, you're our guests, Isabel replied quickly, but Anna was already heading for the door. Eleonora told me you have a very beautiful kitchen, she said as she left the living room. I'd love to see it. In the kitchen, Isabel nervously unpacked her expensive porcelain service, while Anna stood back and took in the surroundings. It really is lovely, Anna remarked. Such modern appliances must make cooking so much easier. Back in our village everything is much simpler, but you know, sometimes simplicity has its advantages. What kind of advantages? Isabel asked absently as she arranged cookies on a plate. When you don't have complex machines, you rely more on your own hands and your head, Anna replied calmly. And that makes you more, how shall I say it, self-reliant. There was no criticism in her words, yet Isabel felt the sting. She remembered last week, when she couldn't figure out the new dishwasher and had to call a technician for something so trivial. Yes, I suppose, she agreed vaguely. Isabel, Anna suddenly said, her tone growing more serious, may I speak frankly? Isabel tensed. Here it comes, she thought. Requests for help, complaints about hard life, pleas for pity. By all means, she said, bracing herself. Eleonora is very upset that she can't find common ground with you, Anna said, looking directly into Isabel's eyes. She's a good girl, kind and intelligent, but she was raised in a different environment, and she needs time to adjust to this new way of life. I understand, Isabel replied cautiously. I'm not asking you to treat her with condescension, Anna continued. Just patience, and perhaps a bit more warmth. Eleonora is sincerely trying to become part of your family. Isabel felt uneasy. This conversation was unfolding very differently than she had anticipated. Here was a woman not begging for pity on her daughter's behalf, but speaking to her as an equal. Of course, she said. I want Eleonora to feel comfortable too. Thank you, Anna smiled. Now, shall we take the tea through? The gentleman must be growing bored without us. In the living room, Jose sat in his armchair studying the painting above the fireplace. When the women returned, he looked up and said, An interesting piece of work. If I'm not mistaken, it's a copy of Murillo's Boy with a Dog, right? Yes, Isabel replied in surprise. You know your paintings? A little, Jose said modestly. I was keen on art in my youth. I even tried painting myself just as a hobby. Isabel sat down in the armchair opposite him and began pouring tea. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from confusion. Nothing was going according to plan. These people were not the simple country folk she had expected. Isabel, Anna said as she accepted her cup, Eleonora told me you offered to let us help around the house. A hush fell. Eleonora turned pale and clenched her fists. Jose raised an eyebrow. Isabel felt her face flush. Yes, I thought. She began, but the words wouldn't come. That's very kind of you, Anna continued calmly. But you know, we didn't come to work, we came to get to know our daughter's family. We wanted to understand what kind of home she's married into, what your values are, what matters to you. Of course, Isabel agreed hastily. I just thought that if you needed help. Thank you, but we're quite comfortable, Anna smiled. We run a small farm that brings in a decent income. Nothing extraordinary, but enough to live on. Jose nodded. Yes, being one's own boss is freedom. You depend on nobody. What kind of farm? Isabel asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. We grow organic vegetables for restaurants, Jose replied. That's in high demand these days. Plus we make preserves at home. Anna has golden hands, her pickles sell out immediately. That sounds interesting, Isabel admitted. I heard from Eleonora that you do charity work? Anna asked. Yes, a bit, Isabel said awkwardly. I participate in a few foundations. Wonderful, Anna approved. Helping people is important. We try to help when we can, too, not through foundations, but directly, delivering food to those in need, helping with repairs. Eleonora listened, spellbound. Her parents spoke of their lives with such dignity that she suddenly saw them with new eyes. They didn't apologize for their lifestyle or feel ashamed of their roots. Instead, they spoke proudly of what they did. Mom, she said quietly, I didn't know you supplied restaurants. We didn't mention it much, Anna smiled. We didn't want you to think we were bragging. But our business is growing. We plan to expand next year. That's very entrepreneurial, Isabel said sincerely, and for the first time that evening her voice held real respect. You know, Isabel, Anna said, setting her cup on the table, I think we have more in common than it first appeared. We both want happiness for our children. We both strive to build a good life for our families, just in different ways. There wasn't a hint of reproach in her words, yet Isabel felt them like a slap. This was the woman she'd planned to use as household help, and now she was speaking to her as an equal, more than that, as someone worthy of respect. Yes, you're probably right, Isabel said softly, and for the first time in many years there were notes of uncertainty in her voice. Shall you show us where we'll sleep? Jose suddenly asked. The journey was long, and we'd like to freshen up a bit. Of course, Isabel agreed hastily. Eleonora, please show your parents the guest room. When the three of them left the living room, Isabel was alone with her thoughts. She sat in her luxurious armchair among her expensive things, feeling oddly small and insecure. All her preconceptions about these country folk had been shattered in a single evening. Who are they, really? She wondered, looking at the half-drunk cups of tea. And most importantly, what does this say about me? The next morning, the apartment filled with the aroma of freshly made tortillas mingled with fragrant herbal tea. Isabel awoke to the smell and for a moment was transported back to her childhood. This was exactly how her grandmother's kitchen smelled on Sundays, when she'd rise early to prepare something special for the family. Coming downstairs, she found Anna at the stove as if she owned the place. Good morning, Anna greeted cheerfully as she deftly flipped a golden tortilla. I hope I didn't wake you. I'm used to waking with the dawn. The day starts early in the village. Oh, not at all, Isabel replied, embarrassed as she surveyed the transformed kitchen. But you're our guest, why go to all this trouble? What trouble? Anna waved a hand, and there was such natural grace in her gesture that even that simple motion looked elegant. I love to cook. Besides, I wanted to do something nice for our daughter's family. Isabel sat at the table, watching Anna's every move. Everything came so easily and effortlessly. Each tortilla batter spooned onto the skillet formed perfect circles, each tortilla baked to an identical golden hue. On the table already stood jars of jam and honey in remarkably delicate jars that looked like works of decorative art. Where did you get such lovely jars? Isabel asked, admiring the fine painting on the glass. I brought them with me, Anna smiled. That's our homemade guava and papaya jam, and the honey is from our neighbor the beekeeper. It's special harvested from meadow wildflowers. I painted the jars myself. You painted them? Isabel was amazed. Yes, just a little hobby of mine, Anna replied modestly. On long winter evenings you need something to keep your hands busy. Jose is into woodcarving, and I enjoy painting. When the others came down for breakfast, the table looked like a celebration. In addition to tortillas, there were flatbreads, fresh fruit, and even a small bouquet of wildflowers in a simple glass vase. Oh my goodness, Anna! Diego exclaimed when he saw the bounty. Why all this effort? We're used to simple breakfasts. It's no effort, she brushed off. I just wanted to treat you to real home cooking. In the city, one rarely tastes food made with the heart. Eleonora looked at her mother with undisguised admiration. In one night, Anna had somehow magically transformed the cold, if luxurious, apartment into a cozy home that smelled of fresh baking and radiated genuine family warmth. Mom, this is unbelievably delicious, she said, tasting a tortilla. You never made them like this at home. I did, sweetheart, you just grew up and stopped noticing, Anna laughed. Children always think their parents stop learning new things after they leave home. And what's in this jam? Isabel asked, spreading the thick guava preserve on a tortilla. It's a familiar taste, yet with some new notes. The secret is I add a bit of lime and fresh mint, Anna explained, pouring fragrant tea. The recipe came from my own mother-in-law. She always said that the secret of a good jam lies not in the amount of sugar, but in the love and soul you pour into the process of making it. An interesting philosophy, Diego observed, genuine curiosity in his voice. In our family, we've always had many such life philosophies, Anna said as she sat down at the table. My husband's mother was an extraordinary woman. She often said, a person's beauty is not in their appearance or their clothes, but in the goodness they leave behind in the hearts of others. Isabel felt those simple yet wise words echo unpleasantly in her soul. What did she leave in people's hearts? Fear of failing to meet her standards? Resentment? A desire to finish the visit as quickly as possible and run far away? Very wise words, she said quietly, surprising herself. Yes, Anna continued. She was remarkably educated, a teacher of Spanish language and literature in her day. From her I learned to love serious books and to see beauty in simple things. She always said that books are bridges between people of different eras, cultures, and social classes. And were you a teacher yourself? Diego asked with interest. Anna hesitated for a moment, and Jose shot her a swift, warning glance that Isabel did not miss. No, she finally said, slowly stirring honey into her tea. I had a completely different career, but that was a long time ago, in another life. What was it? Eleonora asked, genuinely curious. She suddenly realized how little she knew of her parents' past. I worked at a research institute, Anna answered calmly, but a new, unfamiliar note crept into her voice. I studied plant biochemistry. I defended my dissertation on the effects of various trace elements on the growth and development of agricultural crops. Complete silence followed. Isabel froze with her teacup halfway to her lips. Diego's jaw dropped in surprise, and Eleonora looked at her mother as though seeing her for the first time. Mom, she whispered, you never told me. And why would I, darling? Anna shrugged. That was another life, in a different world. I have no shame in growing vegetables and managing a household now. But why did you leave science? Isabel couldn't hold back, feeling her worldview crumble. A PhD, a promising career. Anna was silent for a long moment, slowly stirring golden honey into her clear tea. The pause was heavy with painful memories. Life brought its adjustments, she finally said, her voice growing softer. I had a brother, my elder brother, Andres. He died in a car accident when he was only 28, just a 5-minute walk from the institute where I worked. The kitchen grew so quiet one could hear only the ticking clock and the barely perceptible breaths of those holding back tears. After that, I understood that all the career achievements, the degree, the recognition of colleagues, the publications become empty when you lack what matters most, Anna continued, eyes still lowered. Jose and I decided to move to the countryside, far from the place of our tragedy, away from all those memories. And you know what? She looked up, meeting Isabel's gaze firmly. I have not once regretted that decision. Mom, Eleonora rose and embraced her mother, tears welling in her eyes. Why didn't you ever tell me about Andres? I didn't even know you had a brother. Why burden you with memories of someone you never met? Anna replied softly, stroking her daughter's hair. Your father and I decided to keep his memory in our hearts, and to give you only joy and love. Jose rose silently, took his wife's hand in his own. And that simple gesture was the story of years of shared love, mutual grief, and steadfast support in life's darkest moments. But all my scientific knowledge didn't vanish, Anna said more cheerfully. Now I simply apply it in real life, in the field. My biochemistry helps me grow the best vegetables and fruits in the region. That's why your tomatoes and cucumbers taste so unbelievably good, Diego said, genuine, deep respect in his voice for the first time in days. Not only that, Anna laughed. The main secret is that we grow them with true love. Plants, like people, feel the care and attention given to them. Isabel listened and felt something fundamental shift inside her. This woman had made a conscious choice to leave science and a promising career behind and begin a wholly new life of different meaning. She had endured grief that would break many people, yet she found the strength not only to survive but to create a new, purposeful, and happy life. Anna, Isabel said cautiously, don't you ever miss scientific work? Colleagues, research, discoveries? You know what? Anna answered thoughtfully, turning toward the window. When I go out to my garden and see my plants growing, watch the fruits ripen, see the grateful response of the earth to my care, I realize I'm doing true science only not in a lab, but in the living, practical world. But it's still not the same as serious scientific work, Isabel objected. And what does the same mean to you? Anna asked calmly, with genuine interest. If science is understood as the constant search for truth, the study of the world, and the desire to do something truly useful for people, then I practice science every single day. My laboratory is under the open sky, and the results of my research can be studied and eaten. Diego listened attentively, and in his eyes Eleonora saw a look she hadn't seen in a long time, sincere admiration for the speaker. He looked at his mother-in-law as at someone whose opinion truly mattered. "And how do you feel about Eleonora marrying a city boy?" he suddenly asked. "Aren't you worried that she's far away from you now?" "We're genuinely happy that our daughter found true love," Jose answered for his wife, joining the conversation for the first time that morning. "Where a person lives, whether in a big city or a small village, means nothing. What matters is who they are at heart." "And what kind of person am I, in your opinion?" Diego asked with a light but sincere smile. "A kind person," Ana replied without hesitation. "You can see it in your eyes, and how you speak of people. Though your character is still a bit gentle, something life will teach you to strengthen in time." Diego blushed but took no offense at her candor. There was no malice or desire to humiliate in Anna's words, only the statement of an obvious fact, spoken with maternal straightforwardness and care. "And what do you think of our relationship? Of Eleonora and me?" Isabel asked very carefully. Anna studied her with the same analytical insight she once brought to complex experiments. "I think you've forgotten a very simple but important truth," she said softly but firmly. "A family's happiness and well-being do not depend on how expensive the furniture is, the level of education of the parents, or how many zeros are in the bank account. Family happiness depends on one thing only: the ability of people to sincerely respect and value one another." "But surely there must be some generally accepted standards, criteria," Isabel began. "Of course there must be," Anna agreed. "Honesty, sincerity, kindness, willingness to help one's neighbor, respect for elders, and selfless love for one's children, these are the true, eternal standards of human coexistence. Everything else, expensive possessions, prestigious educations, connections in high society, is merely a beautiful backdrop that can adorn life but will never replace what truly matters." Eleonora listened to her mother and felt something profound changing within her. All week long she had struggled to conform to the imposed notion of what the perfect wife of a wealthy man should be. And now, at last, she understood with crystal clarity that a person's real worth and dignity are measured by very different and far more important criteria. "Mom," she said softly but from the depths of her heart, "thank you." "For what, my dear?" "For showing me who I should truly be proud of in this life." Anna smiled with that special maternal warmth and gently stroked her daughter's head, just as she had done when Eleonora was a little girl. "You have always been a very smart and sensitive child, Eleonora. Sometimes all of us just need a reminder of that." Isabel stood up and slowly paced the kitchen, trying to sort out her swirling thoughts and emotions. Everything she had heard at what seemed like an ordinary family breakfast was utterly overturning her long-held beliefs about the world, about people, and about what truly matters in life. This simple countrywoman turned out to be a highly educated PhD, someone who had consciously chosen an entirely different life, who had endured unimaginable personal tragedy and yet found the strength to build a new, meaningful existence. A person who measures life's value not by the size of one's bank account but by the depth and sincerity of human relationships. "Anna," she said, stopping at the window without turning around, "may I ask you a very personal question?" "Of course, ask away." "And what do you think of me personally?" A long, heavy silence fell. Anna slowly finished off her cool tea and set the cup down on its saucer with care. "I think you are a deeply unhappy woman," she said with complete calm, each word landing like a verdict. "You have built your entire life on appearing better, higher, more important than others, and in doing so you've robbed yourself of the ability simply to be happy." Her words felt like a slap, yet Isabel did not protest or become angry because in the deepest part of her heart, she knew it was the bitter and merciless truth. "And what am I to do now?" she whispered, barely hearing her own voice. "Begin living for real," Anna replied with simplicity and wisdom. "Stop playing the role imposed on you and try to become yourself." Sunday evening was descending on the city with soft twilight, tinting the sky in gentle rose and gold tones. In the living room, only one lamp burned, creating an intimate atmosphere for a serious conversation. Isabel sat in her favorite chair, but for the first time in years she felt uneasy in it, as if it belonged to someone else. "Anna," she said when the men had gone out to the terrace to discuss the garden and Eleonora had taken up the dishes, "may I speak with you alone?" "Of course," Anna replied calmly, putting aside the book she had been reading. "I'm listening." Isabel rose and paced the room, gathering her thoughts. In 2 days, her world had been so radically turned upside down that she felt like someone lost in her own home. "I want to apologize," she said at last, stopping at the window. "For my words, for my behavior, for how I treated Eleonora and you." What exactly made you change your mind? Anna asked without a trace of triumph in her voice. You, Isabel answered honestly. All my life I believed I knew how to distinguish worthy people from unworthy. I thought education, money, and status were the measures of human value. And what have you realized now? Isabel turned to Anna, her face the picture of someone who has just had a painful revelation. That I was blind and foolish, that true nobility cannot be bought or inherited. That one can live in luxury all one's life and remain spiritually poor. You're too hard on yourself, Anna said gently. No, Isabel replied, I'm honest. For the first time in many years, I'm honest with myself. She sat down opposite Anna. Do you know what impressed me most about you? What? That despite every right to be proud of your achievements, you never flaunt them. And I, having no real merits beyond marrying well, have behaved like an aristocrat. Anna studied Isabel's face carefully, seeing genuine remorse there. Tell me about yourself, she asked. The real you, not the mask you wear. Isabel sighed deeply and leaned back in her chair. I grew up in an ordinary family. My father was an engineer, my mother a librarian. Nothing special average means, but we were warm and cozy. I dreamed of becoming an artist. I drew all the time and even got into art school. And then what happened? I met my future husband. He was older, more successful, from a wealthy family. His mother looked down on me too, deemed me unworthy of her son. And do you know what I did? What? Instead of proving her wrong by my actions, I decided to become like her. I gave up painting, stopped seeing my old friends, even changed the way I spoke. Anna listened silently, understanding how difficult this admission was for Isabel. And were you happy? She asked. I thought I was. My husband's career soared, we climbed the social ladder, we got this house, this status, these connections. I felt like a winner. And when did you realize it was an illusion? Isabel remained silent for a long moment, tears welling in her eyes. When my husband died suddenly, of a heart attack, and I was left alone in this beautiful void. Do you know what struck me most at his funeral? What? That very few people came and all they spoke of was his connections and his wealth. No one said he was kind or that they would remember him fondly. And then you understood? That we had wasted our lives chasing ghosts and lost something real. But by then it was too late to change anything. Anna rose and sat beside Isabel on the arm of the chair. It's never too late to begin living authentically, she said warmly. You're not an old woman yet. You have a son, and you have a daughter-in-law who sincerely wants to be close to you. But how? How do you start over when everything is already so set? By taking it one day at a time, one act at a time, like learning to walk again after an injury, slowly, carefully, but persistently. At that moment Eleonora entered the living room carrying a tray of tea. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but I thought you might like some tea. Isabel looked at her daughter-in-law with new eyes. How beautiful she was, not with that cold, salon-made beauty, but a warm, natural beauty. And how thoughtful, how she tried to bring comfort even to those who had caused her pain. Eleonora, Isabel said, her voice taking on a different, gentler tone, sit with us. I need to say something to you. Eleonora sat cautiously on the couch, bracing herself for more rebukes. I want to apologize, Isabel said, and it was clear the words cost her. For all these days, for how I behaved, for making you suffer. Eleonora's mouth fell open in surprise. I was wrong. Completely wrong. You are a wonderful woman, and Diego is very lucky to have you. And I simply forgot what it means to be human. Isabel, Eleonora began, but her mother-in-law raised a hand to stop her. Let me finish. I know simple words cannot undo what's been done, but I want you to know that I will strive to be better for you, for Diego, and for myself. Tears came to Eleonora's eyes, but this time, they were tears of relief, not pain. Thank you, she whispered. It means so much to me. And now tell me about your parents, Isabel asked. Not what I wanted to hear, but the truth. So Eleonora told them, how her father could fix anything and had golden hands, how her mother read aloud on winter evenings and always made room for anyone in need, how they lived simply but with dignity, never humiliating or flattering anyone. They taught me the most important thing, Eleonora concluded, that happiness isn't about what you have, but who you are. Wise people, Isabel said, and I am so ashamed of how I judged them. Diego and Jose entered the room, animatedly discussing terrace plans. So, have we solved world peace? Diego asked cheerily, then saw their serious faces and grew cautious. We've decided on something more important, his mother said. We've decided to become a family. Diego glanced at his wife, then at his mother, amazement in his eyes. Mom? Son, I need to tell you something. I was wrong about Eleonora and her parents. Completely, catastrophically wrong. But you said. Forget what I said. I was talking nonsense. Now listen carefully. You have a wonderful wife and wonderful in-laws. And if you don't appreciate them, you're a fool. Jose let out a quiet laugh. Now that's a turn, he said. I was bracing for another battle. No battles, Ana said firmly. We're family. Family support, not fight. Exactly, Isabel agreed. And I want to propose something. Ana, Jose, stay with us. This house is too big for just me, and I have so much to learn from you. Is that a serious offer? Jose asked in surprise. More than serious. I have money, connections, opportunities. And you have what I lack: wisdom, kindness, the ability to see what truly matters. Let's combine our resources. Ana and Jose exchanged glances. We need to think about it, Ana said. It's a big decision. Of course, take your time. But know this, you are welcome here not as servants, but as full members of the family. Eleonora watched the scene as if it were a miracle. That morning she had feared every word from her mother-in-law. Now Isabel was inviting her parents to join them as family. Diego, Isabel said, turning to her son, what do you think of this proposal? I think it's the best idea you've ever had, Mom, he said sincerely, embracing his wife. Then it's settled, Isabel smiled. Tomorrow we begin our new life together. Outside, the city was drifting off to sleep, unaware that in one apartment a miracle had just happened. People from different worlds had met and understood one another, discovering that those worlds are not so different when love and mutual respect lie at their foundation. You know what's most surprising? Ana said, looking out at the city lights. We all spent our lives searching for happiness in different places, and here it was, in this room, in our ability to forgive and accept one another. Everyone nodded in agreement, knowing how true that was.